And so anyway,
Anyway.
the elephant was walking down the street, and that's how that ended.
Now, is there any point where we're going to be able to talk about the rehearsal?
So if we, I agree. So we've been talking about, should we do an episode talking about the rehearsal, especially the very end of it? And if we do it, we have to spoil it. There's no way not to spoil the whole thing. And I have to go back and rewatch probably the last 2 episodes to,
I kind of feel like I need to go see the first season, but I don't know if I want to put my emotions through that kind of trauma again. I don't know. It was, yeah. I'm happy to talk about it, but
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it is just that this is a lot of people's introduction to his work.
yes.
right.
And
Yes.
you can go way back and, Comedy Central stuff. And it's
Yeah.
the same. It's the same
and
feeling.
I was confused because I thought this was the second season of The Curse. And so I was about 2 episodes in trying to figure out, like, when did this turn into The Curse? And, yeah. So,
Yeah.
hey, Dom, what did you think of the experimental plane you went and looked at? And he's been getting tail wheel lessons. Yeah. So he saw a certain experimental that I've been hanging around.
So do people drink when you say tail wheel, Ted, or
Tail
is
wheel.
that only when Brian
Tail wheel.
says it?
Tail wheel? Can I say it like you? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Well-
drink for all of us on that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, they don't. There's not a lot of E's in Georgia.
No. I mean, it's hard to say, I guess. I don't know.
How do you feel about it?
I feel fine.
Hey, Cheryl. We were talking about an email from you. So
Yes, we were.
you
We
know.
like that suggestion. Thank you for that.
we blocked you and sent it to junk mail. We'll never hear from you. Oh wait, not that.
No, it's very good. Very good. We will do it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cheryl.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thanks for sending that. That was awesome.
Miss Wendy, Pierre Tarantelli, Googler's Landing, Barry. Cool. Sorry, I'm like reading out loud.
Yeah.
It's like,
All right,
JB
let's see.
Alunist. I saw JB Alunist recently in
oh
Nashville.
yeah. Oh, I thought that you saw it last Wednesday. Okay.
I want to give our friend Peter Tarantelli a shout out. He drove on Father's Day. He volunteers. I don't know the exact organization, but he spends a lot of his time volunteering. And he said today he did a 308-mile round trip to Connecticut to deliver an emergency blood disorder. So I guess he works for the American Red Cross. So he spent his Father's Day delivering blood.
He may work for one of the blood banks, but yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Or volunteer
So-
for one of the blood banks. And he got like, what was it? Volunteer of the Year last year?
Yeah, yeah.
Big
So
award. Yeah.
massive shout out to Peter. That's
Yeah.
doing the Lord's work there.
Yeah. Yeah. This mic's down. I need to change. There we go.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a little better. Oh, it is Red Cross. Okay.
Am I okay?
Yeah, you're good, Ben. Now Ted's back in the mix. This is
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Cool. Well, then maybe we should start this thing.
Let's do a podcast.
I do
Okay.
think seeing Peter's text about delivering blood is a lot funnier when you think of it as not being Red Cross. So, so I think of every time because I'm immature.
Yeah.
All right, shall we?
Let's.
Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. What is it like to become a pilot in midlife? The challenges are unique, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences. You definitely should not take any advice too seriously from an aviation podcast that uses terms like icing on the vegetables. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, training for a rating, or just thinking about getting started in aviation, we like to think of the podcast as your aviation companion and your weekly dose of aviation inspiration. Tonight, we'll be talking about trouble afoot in foreign lands. My name is Ben. I'm a pilot with an IFR rating and a commercial certificate based in the metro Atlanta area, flying a Cessna 182. I like to call the Beast. Joining me tonight, a private pilot in Nashville, home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie, live on Music Row, flying a Cherokee 180 named Lucy. It's our friend Brian. Good night. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Well, see you later.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Been
So,
real.
yeah. Hey, thanks for joining.
I'm so
Also,
tempted to play the outro right now.
also joining us tonight, a sport pilot based in Portlandia. He flies a Flight Design CTLS. We like to call the Egg. It's everybody's friend, Ted. Good evening,
Hey.
sir.
Hey, glad to be here. Yeah.
Glad you're with us.
Yeah.
So tonight, as mentioned, we'll be talking about tips. I want to say tips because we're not instructors, we're not AMPs, but things to consider when you're going on a cross country and you run into a little bit of trouble, mechanically speaking. But before we get into that, I thought we'd go around the horn. And unfortunately, Mr. Sisk, I understand Lucy is still down. Can you give us a status update?
Yeah, well, things are looking up. You know, and what I think is funny too is just the psychology of going through plane ownership, and when there are maintenance issues, it's always nice when one that there's a smoking gun. You know what I mean? When you have a problem, and then there's a clear reason for that problem. So that's always good. And then the remedy, if it can be just one thing that is easily applied and fixed or replaced in some way, then that's fantastic. That is the best you can hope for, because these things are gonna keep happening, right? But in my case, it just seems like there's always been a couple of little extra things, and I think this is just how it goes. Where yes, smoking gun, okay, new ignition wires, the ones that I think last episode I was saying that they were from the era of when Jimi Hendrix was an up and coming guitar player. And so now they are, fancy, cool, bright red ignition wires, but now there's a plug issue or something, so it's just, there's things, but this should be sorted out tomorrow morning. And so I am a firm believer that this is it for a minute. And, these are one of those things too, where you do deferred maintenance. We all do deferred maintenance. You choose carefully with guidance of your mechanic, what things to worry about right now, what things to worry about maybe a little later. And you're always weighing that out against how much does this cost right now versus is there a safety implication here? And,
Right.
You're trying, and then if it's something where many components are like this, where inevitably it's going to fail. So where would you like to be when that happens? Or do you want to avoid that? So we knew that these ignition wires were going to meet their end soon enough. And there had been a previous rumbling with them, but they got me to Texas. They got me to, got a little bit more mileage out of them, but it's time. So anyway, so that's put me into even a more defeating maintenance cycle. Do you guys have any experience with cars or owning a car?
What is this car you speak of?
Yes.
Well, so we have inherited a 1994 Volvo 940 sedan, not the wagon, not turbo, and it's the generation that's sort of after when they were the coolest in my mind. But we inherited this thing, and it's one of those things where the car is kind of sentimental, and you want to take care of it. It's it needs more work than what it is worth. But so we're trying to pick our spots. We're deferring maintenance, right? It's like it's all about in cars. It's very liberating. The worst case scenario is so much more palatable than airplanes. But for instance, it definitely leaks transmission fluid, and It apparently had been for a while, and I was wondering why it sounded like a meat grinder for a while. When I checked that transmission fluid and realized that there was none, that top it off. Oh, it's starting to come back now. So it's very rewarding, and it only cost 10 or $15 and 5 minutes to solve this issue. And it's not the transmission, it's not the end of the car. Great, but it leaks. So I just reframed how I think about it. It's a slow transmission flush. That's all it is. Right?
You will never have to pay anybody to do a transmission flush for you ever.
That's right. It's just sort of a
How much
built-in.
money are you saving on that?
Yeah, exactly. It's a feature. But today, as a matter of fact, it's starting to get hot, and so both of my Toyotas. Well, one of my Celica does not have air conditioning even as an option. It's not even in it. It's not even set up for air conditioning because back then it was an expensive thing to add on to the car.
Right.
And to the tune of like add 10% of the cost. Back then, how it was. It was like if your car was $12,000 new, if you wanted it with air conditioning, it was going to be 14, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so if you were not in a situation or a location where it was really important, then you just didn't get it. So Celica does not have it. But the MR2 does. The MR2, however, was on the old standard, and so got it converted to R134. Then the compressor died. Now there's a fan motor that died that the system depends on. I sourced that from England, got it here. I got it. It's just this whole thing that's been going on. But that car does not have air conditioning, and it's a work in progress. This Volvo has air conditioning, reasonably more modern. 94 to me is a really modern car.
Yeah.
And it even has what do you call it? Safety. It has an airbag. It's crazy. And but the air conditioning was just not working. But today we went down to the auto parts store, got the gauge, got the Freon right there, cranked it up, fed. The compressor was not turning, so we're like, okay, this is maybe the compressor. But no, the compressor apparently protects itself when it's low and will stop kind of doing things. So once you kind of get it going, it'll go again. So it started going, topped it off, ice cold air coming out of this thing. It was like a religious experience. And my wife looked at me, she said, and so I can drive this car maybe for the next few months when it's really hot. And she said, my gosh, it's been years since you've had a car with air conditioning, like a lot of years. I'm like, I know this is a revelation. So as much as there's been some maintenance problems, you got some wins, you got some losses, but I'm super excited about air conditioning, and I think that Lucy will be coming back. And the last thing I just want to say is that we got a good Blackstone report today, and it's kind of like getting a report card from. I'm not a parent, but I would imagine when you see your young child excelling in school and getting a good report, it feels like that. I'm very proud of the plane.
You posted on the fridge.
Yeah, right. And I just love the language that they use in the comments of the Blackstone reports. And so if anybody's not familiar, check it out. Blackstone Oil Analysis. If you own a plane, you should be definitely doing that with somebody. And I think they're the people to do it with. We're not sponsored, would be. Anyway, I love just it's just like a feel good pep talk. Good job.
They made it sound like you are directly responsible.
Yes.
For this engine's superior health.
You know what? Real quick, I'm just going to read it so people can understand. Okay. Iron decreased some more, and it didn't take a shorter oil change interval to get this lower reading. Steel parts were truly making less metal, and that's really nice. The other wear metals are in good shape too, and lead from fuel blow-by is also at a good level for the hours on the oil. No contamination was found in this sample. The 0.4% insolubles reading shows effective oil filtration. Looks good. I just feel,
nice.
But I will say we don't have an engine monitor. We don't have an EGT. We don't have CHT. We don't have no means of insight as to anything that's going on with this plane, except for these oil analysis reports. So I feel very good about it. Maintenance has been kind of the mode that I've been in, whether it be planes, cars, various things, but everything's on the upward trend.
Yeah. Wendell Geek in the comments said, I really love the Blackstone reports. They always make me feel like a superhero.
Totally.
Yeah. I do enjoy those. I I used to have a Miata. I love that Miata. It was an early one. They had a short crank problem and replaced the engine at one point. I was poor and newly married, everything else. Air conditioning didn't work. I lived in San Diego. We took a lot of trips over to Vegas and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I can just remember we'd buy a 5-gallon or a 5-pound of crushed ice, put it in your lap, and just spread it all around your lap. And you've got, got the top down and everything else, or you've got it up to stay out of the sun. And that's great, except when you get where you're going, you have just this circular residue on your pants, and it's very obvious. But you can't go in those temperatures without cooling down somehow. So
Yeah.
I remember those trips. Yeah.
Well, Ted, have you been doing any flying?
I have. It's been 2 weeks since I've been up, but I went up and I did a big stamp collecting run on Saturday. I
Nice.
went up to Seattle and got kind of the inner ring of airports up there. I still have a few big ones to do up there, but the one kind of the most notable thing I thought was flying into Payne Field. That's Papa Alpha Echo. It's where the 747 assembly factory was. It's the somethingest building, big superlative, largest freestanding or, square footage or something like that. And they obviously build like the 787s there. So you taxi into the ramp and there's just a bunch of planes just stacked up on the ramp there.
Whoa.
So I just put a picture up and you can just see the green
That's
body
incredible.
of these 787 just behind the GA planes. The taxiway is between the planes, between the big planes and the little planes. So everything's just right there.
Wow.
And those are
What a
those are
shot.
some of the biggest 787s. Those are not wingtips; those are folding wings, because otherwise it's too large to fit in airports.
So for those in
hydraulic
our
wings that
audio
drop down.
only,
Yeah.
Ted is showing a picture where these massive 787s with their green, I guess, primer color is just lined up, and then parked in front of them are some Pipers and Cessnas, and it's just the juxtaposition is really cool. It's a great picture.
Yeah.
Egg. Yeah.
Scott
The
asked me to be
egg.
correct. Scott asked me to be correct. These may be 77X,
Yeah.
777X. They also don't have engines, and they hang these massive weights from the engines. So you can actually see these. They must be big concrete blocks or something, but they're a certain weight to fit the planes. And I don't know why they have to have the weight on them, but it's very interesting to see that up close like that. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
Awesome.
that was a.
And
that was a
I like
fun
how
trip.
how you teed that up. It's like a 12-step program. You said it's been 12 days since my last
Yeah,
flight.
exactly.
It sounds
Yeah.
like
So
we're trying
I
to
went
recover from
I went
something.
from that massive, pretty lonely airport, and I went 11 miles west to the next one, which was that the grass runway? No, that one was a very small paved runway. It took me 3 tries to get in. Just, trees, just, the vibes were off. I just wasn't feeling it. I've changed directions. I went around because I like the approach from the other direction. And, it's like, yeah, finally get on the ground, you feel a little better about it. So yeah, it was fun to go to these airports, big and small though.
Yeah, very cool. I haven't flown since getting back from my big trip. I am leaving tomorrow, and it's funny, Brian, when you mentioned lack of AC in your cars. I'm going down to Savannah, and it's going to be one of those flights back home where I leave, 98% humidity, 92 degrees, and I'll be in long sleeves and long pants, and I have to stop on the way back for a meeting. So
Mm.
I'm going to be nice and fresh for my customers when I get out of the airplane. So, but
Yeah.
I am excited about getting back in the air finally. It has been a couple of weeks for me as well.
Yeah.
So-
I always try to think on the bright side that during these summer months when we're all sweltering in our planes and everything else, that maybe there's some really noticeable healthy weight loss that comes from all of this just absolute being drenched in sweat all the time. You get to a certain age, that's not really what happens anymore.
No.
You're still the same, but you're just now sweaty.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Brian, why don't we go ahead and hit the housekeeping? Would you mind?
Let's do that. We are grateful for you all making this the best pilot community that we know of, a positive space where we share everything from training experiences, share personal minimums, stories of grotesque sweat coming from ice bags in your nether regions, tackle ownership challenges, review flight plans, and best of all, make new aviation friends. Connect with us. Join our Patreon community, which, by the way, is the best community on the internet. Thanks for everybody always making it a positive place. Like, there's no, it's better than anywhere else on the internet. I don't go like Ben. You're always saying I don't really even hardly use social media anymore. It is sort of a respite. So thank you for everybody making it such an awesome place. Every day there's something going on that I learn from and that is interesting. You can join our Patreon community, $1 a month, or do a one-time annual Patreon, 25 cents per episode. Access exclusive content, including all of One Dull Geek's amazing check ride debriefs, which keep on coming and are amazing. And at any stage you are in, you will find value in these check ride debriefs and great stories, just cool pilot stories.
Yeah.
Killing Zone conversations and more on the Discord. 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. Watch us live on YouTube, Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Share your stories, midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. And, send us anything. Show ideas like Cheryl sent us a really good one. Send us feedback. Send us... I don't know, Chipotle coupons or whatever. We read every message. You might hear yourself on the show. And for everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, community feedback, merch, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ted, we got a few new Patreon supporters, I believe.
We
Do you
do.
wanna give them a shout out? Give us highlights.
Yeah. At the Landomatic level, we have Brett. Brett, thanks for joining us. And at the Beast Stole Kit level, we have John Plain. I love that name. If that's his last name, what's this called, Brian? Nominative determinism?
Nominative determinism.
Oh, I was so close on that. Yeah. So he had to get involved with that.
Yes, he had no choice. He was born.
Yeah. Yeah,
Born.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So community's been super busy. The conversation I saw this week was comparing putting in GI 275s versus G3X and all the comparisons about that and the cost of putting in a literal new panel. And by new panel, I don't mean the electronics. I mean replacing the face of it. So there were some great discussions about that in there.
I picked up on a lot of that. And to kind of reiterate what y'all are saying, I belong to probably 4 or 5 different Discord servers, and ours definitely seems to get as much traffic, if not more traffic, than some other very popular ones. So something I'm proud to be a part of. But something about reading through these GI 275s and the G5s, things started kind of clicking with me about what I want to do with my airplane. So it really did provide some informative feedback. Now, I don't know where I'm going to get the money to put them in, but that's a problem for another day.
Exactly.
So, Brian, we got some feedback. I was hoping maybe I can read it, or if you want to go for it.
Oh no, I love reading feedback. Also, I would be remiss to so I don't know if you guys that are listening or watching in the live chat here, sometimes we are doing multiple things at once while we're doing the podcast. You'll hear Ted and both Ted and I have the loudest keyboards known to man. And so there are different things happening at all times. I have a friend. I call him Marfa Rob. He's my buddy that I met in my adventures out there. He's coming to Nashville for a conference or something, and so he's texting me right now from the plane. and there's storms here right now. Okay. And he's texting me from the plane as I'm doing the podcast, and I'm trying to tell him, "Hey, I'm on a podcast," and he said, "Fun podcast content is that we're apparently now in a holding pattern from air traffic control due to weather, but that's better than hitting someone else. Also, everyone in the rows around me has closed their windows. Perhaps the behavior I can at least understand in the world because I want to see. Do you really want to crash without knowing at all what was going on outside. Ostrich behavior. So anyway, I was trying to keep it together while that's going on, but at least it's aviation related, so all's fair. But where's this feedback? I don't see it.
It's in the
Oh,
show sheet.
is it under the
in the
section that
doc.
says feedback?
Well,
feedback.
I thought that seemed to be the most logical place to put it, but my logic isn't always that sound.
And
So
in all caps, it says Brian. So, yeah.
All right, I've found it. I've got it, and now I'm gonna read it. This is from, I guess we'll just call it Nick L.
yeah.
Nick L. Felicitations from a mediocre midlife pilot from across the pond. First of all, congratulations on having a rather fine podcast, certainly in the top 10 or 20 aviation podcasts aimed at middle-aged pilots I'm aware of. All right. I thought I'd write with regard to cockpit organization, which we talked about recently. And contrary to popular UK stereotypes, my comments are in relation to hot, sunny weather, particularly the risk of your iPad overheating within the greenhouse of the bubble canopy. I fly in, is it pronounced Evector?
Yeah, I've always heard
Yes, I believe so.
E-Vector. Yeah.
Evector.
Yeah.
EV97 Eurostar, albeit currently converting to fly a conventional wheeled Citabria with an end goal of Tiger Moth, but I digress. All very cool planes. Like many, I use my iPad, mini is my preference, for navigation. But when the sun beats down, the iPad heats up, and if you weren't sweating before, you will be when your GPS fails. My solution, iPhone RAM mount or other mount of your choice, grasping a 12-volt magnetic tablet cooler, bargain at about $28. I don't know if that's USD or or what, which incorporates both a fan and a cooling semiconductor. They come with a magnetic attachment, but you'll need the elastic strap from the RAM mount to hold the iPad on in the dynamic environment of a light aircraft. I found the system very simple and just use a USB cable that splits into two power. Wow.
Two, yeah.
And just use a USB cable that splits into two to power both the iPad and the cooling pad. Attached a few photos. Anyway, keep up the good work. Thank you for that, Nick L. And the pictures are awesome. The plane looks incredible. And thanks for proving that there's actually sun where you live. And
to make this work, you really have to think about the tablet mount being kind of like silicone, like a rubbery, holding it really flexibly, not like a real hard tablet mount. Because his pictures showed the cooler and then the kind of silicone bands pulling it and holding it in place. I'll put a link in the show notes. If you go to Amazon or anything like that, you'll see magnetic tablet cooler. You'll see a couple of things listed, and they all seem to be about the same thing. But yeah, I'll put some notes in for that. I also saw that E-Vector on Saturday in my flights. It looks like every other kind of low wing light sport, except for the bubble is pronounced. It kind of has a Homer Simpson look. So,
oh wow!
It's I just pulled up a real quick picture of one, but the bubble's just a little bit taller, actually significantly taller, but great looking plane.
Yeah,
it's got a Rotax like every other light sport plane does. So yeah, they made the Eurostar and the Sportstar. They're the same plane, just for different markets. But
very cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's the thing about all planes have overheating problems, but especially the low wings and especially the bubble tops like that, because you get your iPad in the sun, it's just gonna cook. And so it's nice to see some solutions out there.
So I'm a little bit fortunate. Our windscreen kind of comes and it crests at the top. So if the sun's right over your head, you still the iPad where I mount mine is pretty hot, but we have those vents that come out from the wings, and I can have it blown straight onto the iPad. It's the climb. It's getting to altitude is where I usually have the problem overheating, and I usually put it in my lap to keep it out of the sun for that. But I am definitely considering getting something like that, just so it's not disrupting my flow. But I do appreciate that. I still think one day we're going to need to record a podcast at like 3 p.m. for our friends across the pond that maybe they could possibly join live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We seem to be gaining a few listeners from over there, so we want
Love
to keep
it.
everybody happy.
And I do appreciate the British humor of in the top 10 to 20 midlife pilot podcasts. Like, yes, that's what we aim is we aim to just be on the list somewhere of
It's like a
all the
parent-
midlife pilot podcasts.
It's like a
We're one
parent
of them.
saying you were the best tree in the school play.
Dad, every time he sees me, he says I'm his favorite son. It's because I'm his only son, but
No, that's
I
very
still
kind.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Very
Yes.
kind.
So tonight, we wanted to talk about managing mechanical issues at remote airports. And by remote, we really kind of mean not at your home airport.
Yeah.
And just wanted to kind of do a round robin on this. How do you pre-plan for mechanical issues? Can you pre-plan for mechanical issues? What do you do when it happens? I have had quite a few situations where I've had to leave the airplane at a remote airport. I know Brian has experienced. I was a willing participant in his adventures. I know Ted's had some issues, so we thought this would be a good one to cover.
Ted, have you had to leave your airplane somewhere yet?
With the mechanical problem,
Or with the cracked windshield. Did you have to leave it?
I did when I was repairing it, but I was able to continue flying.
Okay.
When it cracked.
So really, Ted's the only one that's
Yeah.
not fully been put down yet. But
Well, let's keep in mind he's also experimental, so he has permission to work on his own airplane
no,
too.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not experimental. That's
Oh, you're
always the
not?
confusion. No, it's light sport.
It's certified.
So no, it is special light sport. It is
Oh.
it is manufacturer certification basically. So, but it is not experimental. So yeah.
how dare you?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll let that one sit right there. A lot of different ways I could go with that. We're going to walk
Yes.
away from it.
So Ben, what's your give us one of your, because you're kind of the elder statesman of this. You have the most experience out of all of us. Well, give us a story of when you have had to leave your plane somewhere, and it'd be great if that story also had a hole in it somewhere that was a perfect segue into how to plan ahead. And if you could have planned ahead, this is what you'd have done to avoid the situation you got into. Do you have anything like that?
The only time that I've actually had to leave the airplane due to something mechanical was coming back from Oshkosh. And I'm sorry, I don't know. I guess you could try to find a hole. I planned on Class D airports on my trip back. And the route also took me over. Not only I planned Class D for refueling. Let me clarify that. But then also, here east, excuse me, east of the Mississippi, it's kind of hard not to plan flying over or near Class D airports. It's really, So I did have the alternator failure coming back, and which was at Bowling Green. No, Owensboro. Sorry, Owensboro.
Close.
Yeah. And, we were going to stop there for fuel anyway. And the alternator went out on final. So, AJ was there as well. So, I got really lucky with that one, having had to leave the airplane.
Meaning that you
there.
had somebody else flying in another airplane right there with you.
That's right. I didn't have to rent a car and drive home. There were services there. That's the main thing for me. The fact that I had an airplane to fly or have somebody give me a ride back home was icing on the cake. I'd had no problem renting a car and driving. It's not a 7-day drive to get back home or anything like that.
Yeah.
And a reputable shop after reaching out to a couple of different people who were familiar with the area, so it was a really good experience.
So your advice is always have a buddy in another plane right behind you.
Well, I don't know about another buddy, but have HA as a buddy, because he'll come and get you from anywhere.
Dedicated spotted cow hauler.
Yeah,
that you can
but
take
I
out
mean,
and
there's
use
been
for
other
passengers.
things. Terry and I had a flat tire at Fernandina Beach. Um, I will tell you during my private training, and the really one I think it was self-inflicted, but I was in Waycross, Georgia, and I was there for a meeting. It wasn't a fuel stop. It wasn't, just passing by. I went there on purpose, and I left the master on,
Mm.
and I probably had 90 hours in my logbook, and you know, it was definitely a moment of panic and oh my God, what have I done? And I called my brother-in-law. He's like, dude, people leave their masters on all the time. Go find somebody to jump it. That's it wasn't that big of a deal, but
Mm.
I do sympathize with fresh private pilots who have done something that where do we do? And that's why I thought this is a good topic for those newer,
Yeah.
less experienced pilots. This could be very helpful.
Well, but I do want to also speak to remote airports,
Right.
because it's going to happen
Yeah.
when these things are going to happen, and sometimes you're not planning on that airport being a destination, but it becomes one. So there's that. But either way, it's all about. I guess we can talk about preparation a little bit, and I would like to say that something is going to happen. You just have to think that way, and you have to, and especially when you're earlier on in your flying and you're really used to just flying your flight school's airplanes, and you're just really used to the club, and I'm flying pretty much local all the time. It really doesn't become part of your planning. It really doesn't become a lot of your thinking, and your flight planning, is not going to necessarily reflect all that. You have to be thinking about when this happens, what am I going to do, especially if it's where you're going to be planting yourself, but you're going to think about your route, think about all these pieces, but also think about what you have with you in the plane, because, and this is where I want to kind of volley with you, Ted, a little bit, but, and a lot of people go to pretty extreme levels with this at different points. Do what suits you, but in terms of just the basics that maybe some people don't think about, but have a leatherman, have zip ties, have tape, have some basic things. Yeah.
So when
and
when we went to West Virginia on episode 100,
Yeah.
and Ben's fuel cap was loose, and you had something that you needed adjusting as well, Brian. But
struts.
yeah, but I thought there was something else. But I asked both of you. I was like, "Hey, do you have a hex wrench so we can fix Ben's fuel cap?" And both of you were like, "No." And I was like, "Really?" I was very surprised by that.
Disappointed.
Well,
is what you say it, Ted.
Let me jump in here. It's bad enough not having a hex wrench set. What's worse is having it and not knowing that it was in the airplane, because we did have one, and I was informed by the owner of the aircraft that of course there's a hex wrench set in there. What are you thinking, you idiot?
Yeah.
So that's worse actually. But to your point, yes, having a basic toolkit set, and I do know where that is now, and I do agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Adjustable wrench, hex wrench set, there's just some basic things it's not going to add that much weight to your
Right.
your weight and balance.
And don't add stuff that you wouldn't use, but have some of the basics. And
Have a headlamp that's not your pilot headlamp. Have
zip ties, a small roll of gaff tape. I actually saved a controller. I've talked about it on this podcast, but I saved a controller that had a 140 with a latch that broke while he was remote, and he was very happy that I had a mini roll of gaff tape to keep that thing on, and he heard me on the radio months later and thanked me for it. So it's great when you hear those come around. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I suppose also you have to be thinking about what conditions you're going to be in, for if you're going to be in a place where you need to camp or whatever. But most of the time that's not really where we are, but you can get into situations where you need to get services. Let's just say, we've had these scenarios that are smaller things where it's not about being stranded.
Yeah.
It's just about how many times have you been on a trip where you're doing multiple destinations and there's something that just needs some attention, but is not a no-fly thing, but it's, boy, I would really like to get that taken care of so that it's just one less thing on my mind, and it's on its way to it's not getting better. There's something that's just kind of maybe getting a little worse. And so obviously as a Cherokee owner, struts are always an interesting battle. And I've just gotten very proactive about those kind of things. And so I think that when I'm at airports and I believe that there's somebody around that can help me to, this is before we eventually had to rebuild them, and that's fine. But before they were rebuilt, it was definitely getting them pumped up every month or something.
So opportunistic on that.
Yeah. And so just looking out for those things every time you are somewhere, what can I be dealing with proactively now so that it's not a thing when I'm parked somewhere remotely later or that, so I think there's just something to be said for, again, if you're a newer pilot getting out there, starting to travel around, starting to do things, starting to go places, be thinking about each step of the way. Are there things you can kind of get in front of? Don't be shy about going to an FBO and just saying, is there a mechanic on the field? It doesn't mean you're getting billed as soon as you talk to them. Yeah. It just means you're going to go have a conversation. And 9 times out of 10, especially if it's something if it's something as innocuous as, I've had mechanics just, we'll just wheel the tank out.
Oh yeah.
Pop this thing up, bam, pumped up, great. Slam the cowling back on. I'm like, how much do you? They're like, don't worry about it.
Take the
So
money.
2 things about that.
So then have cash,
Yeah.
and give them cash. But but go ahead, Ben.
2 things about that. Even to this day, every time I get ready to take a flight, if it's a flight that I haven't been to the airport, even if it is to an airport I've been to before, a resource that I use just about every time is AirNav, airnav.com. And so for multiple reasons, y'all have seen my little kneeboard pad. I put frequencies, runways, everything that I need, basic information I need for that flight. But while I'm on that website, they do list for 90% of them. And it could be dated, but I'm at least going to have a phone number to call, but I'm going to see what services are at that airport. And I'm going to be familiar with it. The second point I wanted to make is I can't remember a time where I've needed the service of a mechanic for something light, a tire being flat, alternator, charging my battery. Every single time these mechanics on these fields have stopped what they're doing.
Yeah.
Came to me. One, when we took Terry down to Fernandina, I got the flat tire on the nose guy. The guy normally closes on Saturday. We were there for the weekend, and we landed at like 4:00 in the afternoon on Friday. He came back into his shop on Saturday and changed my tire for me. Had it pulled back out in front of the FBO, and $400. I thought that was a pretty reasonable amount. He had to jack the airplane up and do all this. So my point is it's amazing. There's horror stories. I'm not saying every mechanic out there is on the up and up, but it feels like the overwhelming majority will go out of their way to help you out. So don't be scared to pick up the phone, like you say, Brian, and call saying, hey, I'm coming to this airport just in case, just curious, can you service a Cessna 182? Or have you worked on them before? I do think that's a valuable resource.
And a lot of us are weekend warrior type of flyers. A lot of us work during the week. And so another reason to have cash and be prepared to be able to pay cash for a call out. And so for those that don't know what that is, if you're just kind of getting out there, generally on the door of every FBO, you will see a number listed that is the, oh boy, number. Isn't this a funny predicament number? And be prepared to pay a fee to get somebody to come out to help you. But the good news is, at the. I mean, their spouses will probably be angry at them for the rest of the weekend, but you get the benefit of them coming out to help you. So, no, know the call out. Know that the call out numbers are there. Use them if you have to, but have cash. This is another reminder,
Yeah.
just to have cash. Cash is options. Cash is flexibility, and that's really what this is all about. Having some of the tools, and just have some things that you need.
Yeah, $100 bills are definitely part of your toolkit and should be in that toolkit, not things that are in your wallet that you spend. Nathan Ballard says that's a good point. Small town A&Ps seem to be more available than you would expect. That is true, though. Being kind of weekend warriors there are a lot of those situations where you're flying in Friday at 5 p.m. and you're leaving Sunday. You're not going to see anybody there, and they're especially you're not at a Delta, you're at smaller airports. There are not as many options, and you need to be prepared for that, whether that's your tools or that you're prepared to spend a couple nights. And I get reminded every once in a while that I'm not prepared to spend the night sometimes. And I was in shorts and a t-shirt to visit a friend, and it got dark, and I was freezing, and I was headed back home. I was like, wow, good thing I didn't get stuck down here or stuck somewhere. Like those are the things you have to think about too, and be prepared to spend the night somewhere. And even though you're just going 2 hours away.
Yeah. Well, also, Ben, when you were talking about your alternator, one thing I wanted to mention is, or I actually just kind of wanted to ask you, do you know at the time how much time you had on that alternator, or did you know what its state was?
No. I do know that the alternator had been replaced maybe a year and a half, 2 years prior. But there was something that happened. The belt broke a couple of something happened to the belt.
Yeah.
It hit something and it broke a couple of gears or something within the alternator itself. So it was a bit of an unusual situation.
I see.
So that is to your point though, which I think is what you were trying to get at, is Stuart and I have a binder, my brother-in-law. We have a binder, and we have when will the mags last overhauled? When what are the major items?
Yep.
And how much time is on them?
That's right.
We keep an oil sticker on there, and if you'll remember at the Big Texas End, I let that sneak past me. We didn't get the oil changed in time, and we actually got the oil changed at Gillespie County. Again, great staff. This was on a Friday. They did it for us because we got there on Thursday. But they kind of put me in place ahead of maybe somebody else and got my oil changed for me. So just another example of that.
Know your equipment, know what things are starting to wear, what things are maybe coming up that might fail as best as you can. Doesn't mean to carry around a set of magnetos with you, but just, before you head out on a trip, really understand where things are.
Yeah.
But,
sure.
So Ted, now you had a funny thing happen with the egg. It cracked.
Yeah, and not talking about Texas either. So when I bought the egg, it was in Arizona, and I ferried it back home to Oregon. And I spent a couple days doing it, and I had family in Utah, so I stopped there for a while and all of that. But that was my biggest trip at the time. I had under 200 hours. I planned the whole thing out, like all my options. Everything went well. I was in Utah and at altitude, and the windshield cracked and just didn't hit anything. It just cracked.
Were you singing Mariah Carey level notes?
Oh, you know me. Yeah. Yeah. So, it was probably a little bit to do with the shape of where the windshield hits the body of the plane, and so that was repaired after that. But I ended up in Boise, Idaho, a planned stop, on the ground, wondering if I could keep going. Now, I flew a couple hours because I took a Sharpie and I marked the windshield so I could see if it was progressing at all, and if it was, I'd stop anywhere. Since it wasn't progressing, it wasn't safety of flight, I continued to where I was headed. And so so Savvy Aviation, one of our favorite people over there, they have a service and it starts at $100 a year. And one of the many things it comes with, besides borescope images and engine reports and all of this, one of the things it comes with is breakdown assistance. As a Wendell Geek called it in the comments, AAA for aviation. So I used it. I dialed it at 9 p.m. Mountain Time and heard from somebody on the East Coast. This is on a weekend, I think. Heard from somebody on the East Coast within 15 minutes. It was their full mechanics that work for them. The guy had experience with flight designs before, so he knew what he could picture it in his head. And we walked through it, and we walked through, is this safe? Is it legal to continue flying, to ferry? Do I need what do I need to do? And they helped me through it. And sure enough, they didn't know the mechanics on this field because there'd been some turnover, but they, went to a shop the next morning and they gave me some suggestions of what to do with some tape and things like that. But I went to the shop and they were super helpful. The wings were covered in ice, so we brought it in and it just dripped all the ice and water into the shop. And they sat there and worked on it for an hour. I can't remember if they charged me or not. If it was pennies. And they put metal tape on it. I still have some of it on my water bottle, but they put metal tape on it, and I flew for 50 hours after that with the metal tape on it until I could get it repaired, which involved flying to LA, Los Angeles for repair. So, but what's amazing about that is that Savvy was there for me, right? And that's a bargain. I'll pay that even if I never have to use it again, because you call them and it's like, not only can you help me through this mechanically, but also legally. And that was key in that situation is, let's talk through this and what are the,
because there could be insurance
of
implications or any other number of things. You just need some translation done in a scenario like that.
Yeah.
There's compliance related things and safety.
Exactly.
Now, is their plan something that you can do like kind of like AAA where you call them up and go, hey, so I'd like to join your situation here.
Honestly, you probably could. Obviously you shouldn't, but
yeah.
Are
you a member? Yes.
Just
5 minutes
like
ago.
Just like every A&P on the field, they do what they could help, I bet.
Yeah.
But it's a bargain. The information they give you on the for the engine data is worth it just for that alone. But everything else they do, their services are fantastic.
And we're not sponsored. We're just, saying things.
Yeah.
No, but I like the comfort aspect of knowing that you're one phone call away of getting trusted advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that.
Well, I have your number, Ben, so I've never really.
And you're getting the exact value that you're paying for. Let's just keep that in mind. I keep talking to. I'd like to do that for our airplane, but we've got kind of already got our network built for the places that we fly. Not to say that we wouldn't go somewhere different. I do believe maybe in the near future, we could be Savvy subscribers. I do listen to their podcast every week, so whenever they publish. But I wanted to hit our friend Barry.
Why?
I don't want to hit him. By the way, I am representing Emergency Checklist.
Oh, yeah.
That's not our friend Barry. That's our friend Checkmate Aviation Barry.
Checkmate Aviation Barry. And I don't want to hit him. I want to talk about his comment. Barry says, I have transcribed all the sticker/typed entries in my logbooks in a searchable Google sheet, which I think is a brilliant idea. And the next time I'm down for a couple of weeks for some flu or sickness, I'm going to go get the logbooks and do exactly the same thing. I think this is you asked the question, Brian, when was the last time we had our alternator changed out? I mean, I can't tell you the date, but it would be nice to be able to find it very quickly.
Yeah.
And
and I will say that this is not foolproof, but I have I have photographs of every page of all of our logbooks in Google Photos, and I can type in things like
Right.
you know, annual inspection,
Yeah.
and it'll bring up all of the it sees them, it knows. So
Yeah,
there are,
OCR. Yeah.
so essentially, without having to do the transcription, you can still search via text these images with reasonable success. I wouldn't use it as to like I don't know, tell your insurance company some specific data point or something. But if you're just kind of needing,
Yeah.
you're just kind of looking around. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think that most people, you're just going to find out these things as you find them out. And if you guys have any special tips, tricks, things that you should definitely have in your flight bag or in your toolkit, or you know, what are the things that you're hauling around that maybe have saved your bacon, please send those to midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. And obviously in the Discord, if you can drop it there.
So there, you kind of alluded to this earlier, but I wanted to make sure. I mentioned when I was had the battery issue, I left the thing on. I was kind of in a mode of a panic mode. Like I thought I'd really screwed up, and I think for people with a lot less experience that are new to it, it's easy to really, you know, get yourself in a tizzy and panic about what's happened. And your point that you made in our wonderful show notes that we have here, stay calm and systematic. I think that's a very important point because making rash decisions rarely do you any good. And so I want our newer pilots out there listening to this is to definitely take a deep breath, take a minute and think through the issue that you're working on. So,
And remember, you did it to yourself.
yes.
By choosing to take on flying in midlife.
Well, and owning an airplane.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
owning,
or renting or anything else you've got with it. Yeah.
that's for sure. So, Ted, we had a couple more that you wanted to hit on as we get ready to wrap up.
Yeah, I just wanted to I've got kind of 6 bullet points here of what we've covered. And I just want to be more explicit about that. Number 1 was plan your route around the services. Think about that on weekends and on remote fields. Number 2, make your emergency kit. That's tools, things to spend the night. Number 3 is document everything immediately. If you don't have it written down, you're not going to remember it. Number 4, build your network before you need it. If you don't know who to call, what are you going to do? This is not just Savvy. This is your locals as well. And it's having Ben's phone number handy. Number 5 is know the legal requirements. So not only what are you capable of, but what are you legally allowed to do on your plane? And those are things both of those are things to keep in mind. Is don't go beyond what you're capable of doing. And then number 6 is know when to walk away. Know when to say, all right, I'm just going to leave the plane here. I don't know how we're going to deal with this. We're done for now. And that's because you're over your head. That's because there's nobody on the field. That's because you need more information, whatever. This is what happens in GA, right? Is there's a reason that we all have stories about being stuck on a field and about planning ahead for spending the night, things like that. This is the adventure that comes with GA
That's
flying.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, just want to continue to remind our listeners we would love a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform that you're using. Don't forget to reach out to us. You can contact us at midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. You can go to our website, midlifepilotpodcast.com. You can watch us here with all of our wonderful folks in the chat Monday nights, 8 p.m. To get the next live recording and see our ugly mugs. Ted, that was a great recap. Guys, do you have anything else that we need to hit on other than the rehearsal?
Oh man, no. Listen, Nate Ballard is in Nashville, so I'm just texting him, saying why you need to tell me. So, thanks again for JB Alunis coming to Nashville, saying hello. If you're coming through any of our towns, feel free to ring us up. If you have a plane problem, Ben, his personal, let's see, your address. No, your
555-2381.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like a savvy, like a TMU version of
discount savvy. Yeah. Nice.
I'll take that
savvy. Yeah.
Yeah. Just put some duct tape on it. It'll be all right.
Send it. Well, I look forward to the continuing conversation on this. Please send us those things, and look forward to hear more of these things in the Discord. There's a lot of stuff in the chat here that we're not getting to that I hope makes it into some other form. So awesome.
Definitely. Thank you, everybody. Tonight's wisdom book. You called him your friend. It was Marfa Rob.
Yeah.
Okay. Tonight's wisdom is IFR related. Holding patterns, the aviation equivalent of please wait, your suffering is important to us. Signing off, episode 133 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.